Labour are set to suffer their worst loss in history, since their last worst loss in history in 2025, at the local elections on May the 7th. As we can see here from the New Statesman's forecast, they're set to lose between 60 and 80% of the seats that are being contested. That's about 1,900 seats, and Reform are set to gain around 16 to 1,700 seats. So if Reform are going to be the winners across the board in the local elections, let's have a look at what kind of candidates they've got on offer, shall we? Yesterday there was this bit of Ring Doorbell footage that came out, and I can only just say, sadly, it's real.
Yes, what is that, please?
Hello, yes, I'm here. I'm one of the local councillors.
Council candidate?
No, you're not a local councillor.
No, she's a candidate.
I'm a candidate
For which party?
for Reform.
Yeah, not interested, thank you.
I'm not surprised people couldn't believe it was real, but what are we doing here? So she's Indian, she's got a handler next to her, who turns out is her father. We'll get into who this is at the moment. She doesn't know what she's running for. She doesn't know she's not already a local councillor. She can barely pronounce the party that she's running for. And then, a bit like the Ring Doorbell Chud meme, she just stands there staring vacant with a twitching eye, probably because she's very tired because it looks like it's 8 o'clock in the afternoon. Been out canvassing all day. Just staring into the Ring Doorbell, telling you to vote Reform. This is real, by the way. We found who she is. This is in the Lancaster Gate ward local election in Westminster. She is Ayesha Ghulati. Now, as I'm going to scroll down this page, you might spot a conspicuous pattern. So if you're in this ward, you have 14 candidates. You can vote for Matthew Bishop of the Green Party, Ayesha for Reform UK, Jonathan Goff for the Conservatives, Sandra Goncalves for the Green Party, Connor Jones for the Labour Party, Blessings Kaseke for the Conservative Party, JD Kelleher for the Green Party, Ellie Ormsby for the Labour Party, Richard Johnston Platt of the Liberal Democrats, Sir David Roche of Reform. Oh, they've let an English candidate in, shocking. Jennifer Helena Sigello for Labour, Philip Stephenson Oliver for the Conservatives, Rudy Vadalay Kennedy for Reform, or Richard Lindsay Wood for the Liberal Democrats. So Reform seem to have, alongside Conservatives and Labour, the highest number of foreign candidates. There are actually more English people running for the Greens than Lib Dems. What is the point of Reform? If, as we've already seen, they're running actual Indian nationals defected from the Labour Party in Aaron Roy, they're running Nigerian nationals in Toriola Coker, they're running a Bangladeshi national in Portsmouth with Mohammed Adi Aduzaman, and they're running a Zimbabwean national somewhere who runs a care workers firm that imports a bunch of Africans over as part of the Boris wave to work for low-wage care jobs with 10 to 1 the number of dependents they bring over, imposing a cost on the taxpayer. Like, how are you going to reverse the Boris wave and conduct mass deportations if your candidates are the literal Boris wave, or the people that brought the Boris wave in, or just immigrants that can barely speak English? And then, if you want to know more about her, we found her LinkedIn. I mean, she's Indian, so you just have to go to LinkedIn to find out more about her life. It seems she's just like a globalist Nepo baby. So she's gone on a sustainability in the workplace program courses. She's been a campaign director for her dad's campaign. We'll get onto him in a moment. She's worked at the Future Leaders Network, at various like UN programs, intern at Humanity United for Universal Demilitarization. So she's part of a group that wants to abolish all nuclear armaments. Is that part of the Reform campaign platform? She's worked for UNESCO. She's got all of these various internships and things to pad out her CV and farm up her ISAT. Doesn't seem like a good fit for actually the priorities of Reform voters, though, does it? You know, mass deportations, regaining the demographic, security and political sovereignty of the United Kingdom, putting the British people first, speaking English, you know, bare minimum requirement. And I did speak to some people at Millbank Tower about this, and they confirmed her identity, and they said, and near direct quote, poor girl barely speaks a word of English. Apparently she didn't really want to do it, She's very reluctant to get out of bed and even go canvass. She was originally going to be in a winnable Westminster ward, but has instead been moved to, and you're not going to believe this, Layla Cunningham's old ward, of all things. Layla Cunningham was a Tory councillor here before she defected to Reform and decided to run as London mayor. And now Ayesha Gulati has been installed, and it seems that her heart really isn't in it. So who's pushing her to do this? Well, it's not just Reform leadership who are desperate to have any Brown candidate to deflect from accusations of racism. I mean, Nigel Farage, after all, apparently in the meeting where Layla Cunningham was appointed their London mayoral candidate, said, near direct quote, well, she's Muslim, so she's got a chance. So that's the thinking over at Reform these days. But also, it's because her dad is an influential Reform donor and former candidate. He was the candidate for Westminster at the last election. He also ran as an independent candidate for London mayor. He says London is ranked as the best city in the world and is a proud global city. So he's an Indian globalist, international banker, who, using ethnic nepotism, is forcing his daughter to become a Reform UK council candidate and is escorting her around the doorsteps while canvassing and having to tell her that she's actually running to be a councillor, not a current sitting councillor. What are we doing here? Is this a joke? What is the point of Reform if they're doing this? Oh, and by the way, this is Tarun Ghulati, as I've mentioned. His father previously held position as a secretary in the government of India. This is according to the Indian press. So, he is, again, an Indian Nepo baby, and his daughter is also a Nepo baby, being installed in one of the more winnable wards in Reform, being parachuted into Layla Cunningham's former seat, while she can barely speak a word of English and doesn't actually want to do it. And all of this is because Reform are desperate to funnel foreign money into the party and put forward foreign candidates to not be called racist. Is this what you voted for? I mean, again, I voted for Reform in a 2021 by-election. At the 2024 election, I went and covered their 2024 conference in Birmingham. I was still trying to make the party better than it was in 2025, even after they booted Rupert out and falsely reported him to the police because he said he wanted to deport the perpetrators of the Pakistani grooming gangs, and Nigel Farage thought that was beyond the bounds of reasonableness for some reason. Is the party even recognisable at this point? Like, is this what you really wanted when you were voting for Reform? Just the blank stares of people from the Indian subcontinent using the party to pad out their own CVs and advantage their own ethnic group? I don't think so. What about Reform's other candidates? This is real. Topo Wresniwiro is actually a Reform candidate. Now this is a screenshot of Topo from Doctor Strange. Yes, the film. Topo is also an actor who has appeared in many movies, including 2 Star Wars films. So Reform are literally recruiting candidates from the Mos Eisley Cantina now. I'm not joking, here he is. He's running in Greenwich. He previously ran for the English Democrats. Patriot, I guess? Like, sorry, he might be a nice guy. I just don't think we should have any foreigners running as candidates, actually. I just think British elections should be for British people. We should be able to represent ourselves in our own political system, and we don't need to outsource our own representation to random foreigners, especially those who want to advantage their own ethnic group and have connections to foreign governments that they'd like to leverage were they to be in government. I think we should just rely on ourselves rather than put foreigners forward so we just don't get called racist. I think we should respond to the accusations of racism with, I don't care. There've also been a very strange chap that Hope Not Hate here have found, and I bring Hope Not Hate up not because they're a reputable source, because they've written hit pieces about me and my friends, and they caused, for example, Bo and Dan of the Lotus Seeds to be deselected. But I bring it up because Hope Not Hate have been on yet another crusade trying to out Reform's candidates as extreme, far-right, that they need to be dropped. This is Mr. Stephen Lewis, who says he's an avenging angel of God. Before you think it's too based, he says that he is the Lion of Judah, and that Easter itself is satanic, and that Christmas is satanic because Santa spells Satan. He also believes the rapture will happen in April 2026. We've got a day left, so can't say I'm too bullish on his prediction, but hey ho, I don't think he's been dropped from his candidacy to run for Wakefield Council. But people who have been dropped, bear in mind, random twitchy-eyed Indian candidates who can barely speak English, actual foreign nationals from India, Zimbabwe, Bangladesh, Nigeria. They're all still in the party. Guy who thinks he's an avenging angel, still in the party. But people that have been dropped are 3 Englishmen who previously joined the British National Party. Of course, the BNP leadership were not exactly reputable characters. But in the early 2000s, the BNP existed because they were the only party at the time that was willing to talk about things like the grooming gang scandal, which, as we now know, was real, and they were, again, shouted down and called racist. Even people that are lauded for their courage for reporting on the scandal at the time, like Julie Bindel or Andrew Norfolk, sat on the story for a while and said, well, we don't want to prove the far right right. We don't want to give a boon to the BNP. There was a Channel 4 documentary in 2003, I think, that was actually pulled. It was called Edge of the City, because they were worried that the BNP would use the documentary to campaign on and gain council seats. It's like, okay, but were they telling the truth about a national scandal in which Muslim immigrants were raping, murdering, and trafficking children? Yes. Okay, is the problem not that BNP exists, but that the BNP is a reaction to the real problem, which is Pakistani rapists that never need to be here in the first place? And so there were 3 lads in here that had previously joined the BNP, that were standing for councillors at the upcoming local elections. One of them, David Pryor, decided to dress as an Arab sheikh in a Halloween costume with Monopoly money, which is just funny. Like, dude, who cares, right? These guys got dropped. So the reason I'm raising it is because Reform are still using hope not hate to vet their candidates. But they're only filtering out the ones who are English people who were basically concerned about very real issues that apparently Reform wants to solve, but were worried about them too early. Like, they're not going around throwing Romans or doing what Nick Griffin has already done, which is accusing Restore Britain of being Zionist containment, which is like, okay, Nick, whatever, buddy. Okay. Versus black man who thinks he's literally an angel and Indian Nepo babies. Like, if you vote Reform, you're going to get that, not English guys that were correct about the grooming gangs 20 years ago. So Reform kicks out patriots and pushes to the front of the queue recycled Tories and foreigners. Maybe it's because they were running out of candidates. Of course, they had to stand 5,000 at short notice, which is why it seems that Richard Tice has resorted to, well, publishing some very strange photos. I'll give you a second, see if you can spot what I did when this was posted. Yep, it's AI. Genuinely, he posted an AI photo. Like, look at the weird fingers. Look at the weird faces, the scrunched up faces with the shut eyes. I mean, even when AI generating, Reform has still got Indians and random foreigners running as canvassers and candidates. Like, this is just embarrassing. Why are Reform, if they really are as insurgent as you would think, why are they resorting to posting AI-doctored photos of their canvassers and recruiting foreign nationals to be their candidates, and also taking defectors from Labour, the Lib Dems, the Greens, the Tories? Why aren't there just a sea of patriots willing to stand in these elections? Because people have responded to my criticism of this saying, oh, well, why don't you run then? Why don't you... It's like, no. Why did Reform actively deselect eligible, intelligent, native Brits, and then go out of their way to staff their party full of foreigners, and then actually at head office full of, like, twinks and Indians and Nigel Farage's mistresses? Why is that the case? Because I don't think that party is capable of governing and solving the problems that they purport to care about, that we all know are an issue, but if you speak about them too soon, then you get ejected in favour of this. Is this serious? Let's look at the polls, though, because I think Reform are starting to get a bit jittery. And the reason is, we're seeing some consistent polling from YouGov, here it was about a week ago, that Reform are still leading. They've dipped from their 31%. They're floating around 27 to 22 in the aggregated polls. But as we can see in this electoral map, there's a conspicuous dark blue spot here. And this is showing up across multiple maps. This was the YouGov poll. This is from More Uncommon. Again, there's a dark blue spot there. There's one from Find Out Now. Dark blue spot there. There's another one from YouGov, which is just yesterday, or actually 2 days ago. Dark blue spot there. Restore Britain are polling, not just at the local elections, but the 2029 election, to win Great Yarmouth. Now bear in mind, it's only been about 6 weeks since they were registered as a national political party. It's been about 10 weeks since Rupert Lowe made the announcement video on, I think it's Valentine's Day. What a gift. And Restore Britain have already got a stronghold in Great Yarmouth, and Reform are worried that this is going to become their Achilles heel, because if you remember when Farage said, when he was asked at the press conference announcing a shadow cabinet where he admitted to calling the police on Rupert on false grounds, well, they're not even going to get 1%. Well, when they're not even prompted by YouGov, they're already on 3%. When they are prompted, they're already on about 7 to 9%. And internally, Reform has done some polling, and if Restore Britain gets anything like 5% nationally, well, they're short of a majority. At the moment, they're modelled to be about 10 to 20 seats short of an outright majority, which means they would have to make a pact with the treacherous Conservative Party. And they've already had conversations prepping for this, by the way. They haven't been going all that well. I know one senior figure in Reform recently sat down with 2 Tory grandees, like a really senior Tory and a former Chancellor, actually, and said, well, do you want to defect to Reform? And both of them said, actually, no, we're still emotionally invested in the Tory party. It's not like we don't appreciate the offer. And that member of Reform got up, stormed out during the dinner and said, well, we won't be sorry when you lose. It's just like, is that the behaviour of a party that feels comfortable with its position in the polls, that feels like it's about to take over the government? And why are you courting so many former Tories anyway, if not to make the merger easier? Anyway, so as Restore Britain have pointed out, this is the start. This is the start of the insurgency. What we're seeing is, because Reform has taken so many self-inflicted wounds with Tory defectors, with foreign candidates, with breaking their promises, with calling their entire base racist and far-right if they want to, force Reform to fulfil the promises they've actually already made, what we're seeing is Reform is starting to dip. There's a pattern of decline here, even though they might be the overall victors at the local elections. And Restore Britain are starting to surge. And so there is going to be an inflection point where one will either surpass the other, or, as I've been told by sources from within Millbank Tower, Reform HQ, one will, quote, strangle the other in the cradle. So they had a meeting, apparently, about what to do about Restore Britain. And they said they're going to, quote, throw the kitchen sink at Great Yarmouth in an effort to, quote, gamble hard on killing the Restore baby in the cradle. And the way they're going to try and do that, or they were going to try, I would like to emphasise, was to send a bunch of unrecognisable canvassers down to Great Yarmouth, pay for their travel, their hotel, all their expenses, and just blitz the area for the next couple of weeks. And the hope is that people on the doorstep won't recognise Reform's canvassers, because when they were sending former Tories around Gorton and Denton, it put people off, because of course people don't want to vote for Reform if they're just another rehashed Tory party. And so if you send Bob Jenrick down there and Nadim Zahawi, people are going to slam the door in their face even quicker than they already have. And so instead they're going to send a bunch of unrecognisable people that look like they're locals or just sympathetic voters like you and me, and they're going to say that Restore Britain are a bunch of, quote, nasty right-wingers. So they're going to call Restore Britain far-right. They're going to, as Dan Tubbs said to Carl Benjamin in an excellent episode of their political chat series, they're going to knock on your door if you're in Great Yarmouth and say, you know all those things that Reform UK have promised to do? Well, Restore Britain's actually going to do them, so don't vote for them, vote for us. Don't think that's going to work. But it does show that Nigel Farage doesn't believe it when he says that Rupert Lowe is just one angry man saying things online with no actual traction. Shows that they're a threat because they are spending significant resources on Great Yarmouth, more so than many other constituencies, and so they are petrified that Restore Britain presents an authentic anti-establishment alternative that could deprive them of a majority or even replace them as the party of the right before the next general election. And so the dirty tricks have started. So they were going to send down Matt Goodwin for an event in Great Yarmouth the same weekend as Restore Britain started their big canvassing blitz, when Lewis and Angloid and Charlie Downs and Harrison were all knocking on doors and representing Rupert. Connor Hall was there as well. Connor was at the Low Seas Live event handing out Restore Britain caps. I already had one of my own, as you well know if you've watched my Restore Britain launch video reaction. So Connor detailed how Reform had actually booked a pub called the Rumbold Arms, one of Rupert's favourites in Great Yarmouth, for an event. And the pub owner is a Restore Britain supporter, but in the spirit of free speech and participation in parliamentary democracy, he allowed Reform to pay to book the venue out. He cancelled all the other bookings, so other business opportunities were turned down to accommodate this, and Reform's county organiser phoned the pub 3 times to arrange for the pub to open an hour early. On the day, Reform decided to abandon the pub and not pay the owner. The owner's first indication of this cancellation was a member of Matt Goodwin's team turning the public away from the pub, saying the event had been cancelled. So, there you go. He'd previously opened 4 hours early to help Reform campaign, back when Rupert Lowe was running in the 2024 general election as a Reform MP. The owner says, "This is a Rupert Lowe pub. In here, we all support Rupert Lowe. If Rupert ever wants to rent a room here, he can have it for free." He also said that Rupert could drink for free. Oh, and by the way, there are a bunch of Reform people in the replies to this saying, "This is fake news, this is made up." And then the pub landlord's wife also got on her own Twitter account and said, "No, it all happened. Here's the receipt, and I would know I'm married to the owner." One eyewitness claims they were standing outside the Rumbold Arms when Matt Goodwin's vehicle stopped outside for a few seconds. A passenger in Goodwin's vehicle pointed at the witness, and Matt Goodwin made eye contact for a moment before driving away. The current leading theory is that Goodwin was afraid of being questioned by people that were doing man-on-the-street interviews who were waiting nearby. So Matt didn't want to get caught off guard by Restore sympathetic alternative media, because he would be in trouble if he said the wrong thing with Reform HQ. His star isn't exactly rising at the moment after losing Gorton and Denton and publishing an AI book, and then doing the media rounds with a rehearsed routine about how we have rendered ourselves irrelevant, and that Restore is actually far right for promising to do all the things that Reform also apparently promised to do, which doesn't make any sense. So one must wonder if Matt was worried about being heckled on camera and asked all sorts of uncomfortable questions in a not carefully controlled environment, which Reform's candidates like to operate in, if he were to actually run the event. And then Connor followed up with the pub owner ringing him saying, "Reform sent a small, skinny gay man in his mid-30s to pay the money they owe. I have heard that it's just Twink Brigade now over at Reform HQ. This is why they've got the largest share of the gay vote, and this is why they're letting Jack Anderton do a bunch of their media appearances, which... keep doing it if you want to wing the youth vote, I guess." Pub owner said, "Nah, keep your money. I moved things around to accommodate you, and I've never been so pissed off in my life. A darts tournament had to be delayed." He told him, Connor, over the phone, "It's not about the money, it's about the principle." Absolute patriot. Good people of Great Yarmouth. And you can tell that Reform are getting worried. Because when people did go down to canvass for Rupert, Angloid spotted this. Just a poster of Rupert Lowe in the back of someone's car. Like, Great Yarmouth is truly becoming like the Patriots' Pyongyang. We've just got images of the great leader everywhere. That's a joke. We're not a cult. Anyway, so the misfortune continues to befall Matt Goodwin because Ian Dale of LBC said, "I understand from sources close to Reform UK, senior party bigwigs are planning to parachute Matt Goodwin to fight Rupert Lowe in Great Yarmouth at the next election. Please do this." And what I think this was, I think this would have been the plan. And then Matt realised he was being stitched up and then said, "No thanks," because he responded to this saying, "I'm fully committed to Reform and have no doubt Reform will win the Great Yarmouth seat at the next election, along with a parliamentary majority, but I will not be the candidate. I suggest Ian Dale gets himself some better sources." I mean, at the moment, they're not projected to win it. At the moment, they're subsiding in the polls, and I don't think you've helped with that, Matt. But I think Matt realised that they were using him as a jobber, because he's not well liked within Reform. He doesn't have any real allies, and his naked ambition to succeed Nigel Farage was considered a threat by Zia Youssef, Richard Tice, and Robert Jenrick. He then published his terrible AI book and got embarrassed by only 12s on GB News. All of his podcast interviews have gone down like a brick in a duck pond. Just check the comments on, New Culture Forum or a Winston Marshall show or Peter McCormack's podcast, he's also still vindictively insisting that the men that he had write his tweets and Substacks and try to staff his office have ruined their political careers, despite knowing them for many years and relying on them for his output. And the party haven't defended him. Instead, after he lost in Gorton and Denton, was nicknamed Matt Badloss. David Bull went on TV and formally denounced his opinion that it's more than having a passport to make you British. Instead, Reform's position is, if you have the British passport, you're as British as you and me and all of our ancestors. So it looks like Matt was being used as cannon fodder in Great Yarmouth because Reform realise they're probably not going to win it. And this is quite embarrassing for them. I mean, they really have resorted to some seriously dirty tactics here. As Rupert's pointed out, they've received reports on the doorsteps that Reform canvassers have been going to Restore Britain supporters and mistakenly telling them that Restore Britain aren't running any candidates in Great Yarmouth. In fact, it's the only place that Restore Britain are running candidates. Anywhere else is not licensed by the party, and local branches actually don't have the authority to back candidates from other parties. Because Restore Britain's not going to own the failures or successes of another party. You can only own your own actions. Great Yarmouth is the only place where Restore Britain are standing a full suite of candidates, and that's why Reform have committed so many resources and are engaging in duplicity and subterfuge to try and sabotage the first test run of Restore's what's looking like an impressive ground game. And so it's because of that deception, it's because of those dreadful candidates, it's because of their mistreatment of their base and their local branches, it's because they're just sending vacant-eyed Indian Nepo babies to your doorstep, that Reform are getting a pretty frosty reception on the doorsteps of Great Yarmouth. Let's just watch this.
Hiya there, we're from Reform UK, we're in your area.
Alright mate, we're in the store.
Are you?
Cheers.
Alright, cheers mate.
I'm hearing that's a pretty common experience. Patriot. So, we've got a couple of weeks to go. I'm not going to tell anyone on how to vote, because outside of Great Yarmouth, you can't even vote for Restore Britain. But I think that's wise, because Reform's eagerness to stand a candidate everywhere they're eligible has led them to pack their party full of reprobates, weirdos, and foreigners. So they can own that failure, I guess. But all I'm going to say is, if Reform keep doing this, they're just going to be seen as a laughingstock. And I think this tale of 2 Ring Doorbell cameras, well, it really sums up the trajectory that British politics is going to go in over the next few years.